And next up, we have a session on tenants against facial recognition. So I'm really delighted to introduce Mona Patel from Brooklyn Legal Services, who's been working specifically with tenants here in New York who are trying to stop facial recognition being inserted into their buildings. She'll be moderating our conversation tonight. Please make her welcome.
Hi, everyone. So, almost exactly a year ago today, the tenants at Atlantic Plaza Towers first learned that their landlord was trying to install face recognition technology in their building, in their homes. Atlantic Plaza Towers is for those who don't know, it's a two-building, 20-plus story complex in the rapidly gentrifying neighborhood of Brownsville in Brooklyn. When they first learned about it, it wasn't through the landlord. They didn't receive a letter. They didn't receive some type of flyer from the landlord saying, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you all think? They received notices from the state agency that oversees rent-stabilized housing in New York. Now, the reason for that is anytime an owner of a rent-stabilized building wants to create some type of change or modification of this caliber, they need to go through the state agency for approval. So the state agency sent these notices to the tenants with a yes or no. Do you want this? Do you not want this? No explanations other than as to what the technology is, other than attaching the landlord's actual application. The application, mind you, was 3 pages of basically nothing. It said they're proposing to install a biometric identifying system, and they, in parentheses, put in also known as face recognition. They also said it was manufactured by Stonelock, but no information about how many buildings Stonelock has already installed this in, or what its accuracy rates are, how well it works, or even a real reason as to why they wanted to do this, why they wanted this modification. Instead, they said they had allegations of safety issues the tenants are facing, safety issues in the neighborhood, without really pointing to any specific reason. It all was very borderline racist. Well, the tenants got organized like that. They set up an emergency tenant meeting. They knocked on their neighbors' doors. They got educated, and they collected signatures for a petition. By about end of October 2018, they submitted over 400 notices to the state agency saying, no, we don't want this, deny their application. Having not heard anything from state agency or the landlord, the tenants then reached out to Brooklyn Legal Services, the Tenants' Rights Coalition, and we started researching with them. And I say with them because we had no idea this was even happening in New York. We didn't know there was buildings, and residential buildings especially in New York, that had face recognition technology already installed. First thing we learned, no laws protecting the tenants from their landlord being allowed to collect and store their biometric data. Second thing we learned, there's serious irreparable harm here. If this biometric data, if each of the tenants is compromised, there's no turning back. That's their identity. And so we helped the tenants file opposition on May 1st, 2019, just earlier this year. Is a very exciting day. A group of tenants went out in front of the state agency and made it known that we are not going to put up with this. Really beautiful posters and flyers as well. But that opposition point, because there's no actual law that regulates this, the opposition pointed to all of the other underlying concerns here, with irreparable harm, but also the fact that these type of technologies often self-police communities. They they prevent people from organizing and moving, prohibit freedoms of movement and association, and in a building as big as this, where tenants have little control over other aspects of your life, other things happening in the building, that's a lot, because you need to stay organized in a building where you're fighting the guy with all the money. So that's that. I know you guys are actually here to listen to these guys and not me. So let me introduce you to two tenants of Atlantic Plaza Towers that were born and raised there. Tranae Moran is actually also raising her kid there, so it's 4 generations of Atlantic Plaza Towers tenants. Fabian Rogers still lives there as well. And yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to the two of you and ask, what motivated you in the first place? When you first got these notices, what motivated you to fight back?
Well, our apartment complex is, if you ask me, over-surveilled as it is already. So our building, we have key fob entry. So we tap 2 key point entries to enter the building. So you enter the first door, then there's a second door, tap, another door, tap, security guard, camera, camera, camera. Turn around, go to the elevator, camera, camera, camera. Get on the elevator, hi camera. Doing my jig after work because I want to. Get off the elevator, camera, camera. So cameras looking both ways down the hall on the actual floor that you live on. So I felt like we didn't need any more security. How much secure can we possibly get? Seriously. Yeah, so that was the pushback. It's like, any piece of additional security you guys put into here, I will be living in a jail. I don't pay rent to live in a jail. I don't pay you to watch my every move. I don't pay you, no, I pay you for somewhere safe and comfortable to live that I have access to with my keys, and I would like to be able to get in it whenever I want to. I don't want to have to stand there, scan my face, and it's like, no, that's not you. That's not what you said you were 2 weeks ago. This is not you. No, I don't need that to happen, especially with a 3-year-old. He has to go to the potty all the time. So, and not just that, but we have a large population of elderly women in our building. First of all, the building is mostly Black and Hispanic, 80% women, and most of them are elderly.
90%, I think.
Could be 90%.
They collected the data.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Closer than 90%. So with all the research that I've done just on my own, and what I'm doing is very surface level in regard to what everyone else in this room probably does. But just with a simple Google search, like, I found that this technology is not really made for people that look like me, and it's not really made to support or help or do anything positive for people that look like me. So why would I want this in my home? Like, why would I want to deal with this every day, like being denied entry? And like, no, that's the pushback. A whole lot of reasons why we're pushing back. It's just
And what about you, Fabian? What about like the community and outside of the building?
So I would definitely double back on what Tranae said, but just to save time, I guess the other point for me that I'd like to focus on is the simple fact that I was uncomfortable when I first heard about the process. Like, think about for a second that you hear about a new modification being added to the building, but it's not coming from your landlord, the person that's handling the modification. It's coming from a state agency. Nonetheless, the mailing system might be a little wonky, so it might take a few weeks before you actually see this letter in the mail, and you're looking at your residents like, hey, did you hear about this? And they're like, my mailbox is like broken. I'm sorry. So at the time when we first got notices from DHCR, we had mail issues and things of that nature. But what really made me uncomfortable was the simple fact that when I had a sit-down meeting with Nelson Management, his legal representatives, with several other tenants as well, in a private meeting because Nelson didn't want to deal with the whole tenant body of Atlantic. The problem became, after asking him several times over, what is the purpose of this technology? What are you trying to aim at with this? I tried as many times as I could before I had to curse or feel the need to have to curse to really get a legitimate answer out of Nelson. He basically came to the conclusion that this was more of a profit-based improvement, not necessarily security. There were no additional security improvements that would be done or given through this use of like technology. So what started to run through my head was the worst case scenarios of having to hear about Nelson in media through his interviews with media, just like we had been talking and going through our roles, talking to different news paper outlets. He'd given the conclusion that he wasn't going to do an opt-in or opt-out process with this technology. So as a tenant that has no real agency or control over the situation, and you're stuck kind of in a corner with other tenants that are looking at you as well, like, well, what are we going to do here? You come to the worst case scenario of, am I going to get evicted by chance? Is this technology for me, or is it for the people that can afford the modifications that come with this apartment and the market sharing boost that Nelson might get if he flips this apartment over because he can get me out of this place through not having an opt-in, opt-out contract? So it's the worry of having to deal with possibly having my apartment accelerate in the gentrification process just for the simple fact that I would choose not to, participate in the process of dealing with this technology, and just having the worries of eviction in the back of my head after growing up in this building for years and years and years and not really planning to leave anytime soon. So that's really...
Yeah, and that meeting you mentioned with the landlord and his representative, I recall them saying that was 100% accuracy rate.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
And so...
100%.
And this is the funny part is like, the representative that was representing the interest of Stonelock, which is the security system that's being installed in our building, the guy there, he basically wanted to say, we had 100% efficacy in our technology. Besides the fact that Stonelock doesn't have any release validation studies on their security technology, we're one of the first private living complexes, residential complexes that would have this technology in there. So to have this sort of downright 100%, we're good to go, it sounds a little wild. And on top of that, just out of the sheer fact that Nelson nor Stonelock wanted to help us on figuring out what we were dealing with, just doing our own research on our own and having other tech experts, data analysis, data scientists and things of that nature, helping and giving us information, their research showed that there's not any technology currently out that has that type of efficacy anywhere, and especially for black bodies. So there's a big discrepancy here that we never got the chance to really get over.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Rashida Richardson and AI Now, because the three of us and a couple other tenants and folks from our team at the Tenants' Rights Coalition jumped on a call with her and asked the most basic questions. What is this? Mm-hmm. What do they mean by biometrics? Can something happen to this encrypted storage space? We were kind of lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had no idea what it was about,
Yeah.
the technology itself. So, but since then, since May 1st, since the opposition has been filed, the tenants have inspired legislation. There's... Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. There's currently a federal bill pending on banning face recognition in public housing. There's a state bill in the Assembly and State Senate pending that would ban the use of face recognition, period, by landlords across the state. And there's currently 3 city council bills dealing with face recognition. One in the commercial sector, it would require putting up a notice. Another one would require landlords to register. And the third one would require landlords to provide a metal key in addition to the face recognition so tenants can opt out. But there's no actual ban in any of those 3. So legislation
lots
pending.
Of work to do.
Yeah, so that's my question. Lots of work to do, huh?
Yes.
There's legislation pending, opposition. We're still waiting for a decision from the state agency. What now for you guys?
We are still fighting the good fight, okay? The bills that were presented, it's a great step forward, but there is still some verbiage in those things that need to be tweaked and just still things that really need to be worked out. Actually, this coming Monday, we are going to a city council housing and buildings committee meeting because there was some new legislation that we found out about. So you guys are more than welcome, if you are free on Monday, to come out and support us in this fight, because it's not just for us in Brownsville, it's for everyone. There's no regulation anywhere for facial recognition or just any of this new cool stuff that's happening. There's no one holding any responsibility for it if something were to go wrong. So there's just a lot to do, and we could use your help. And you can help simply just by talking to like local politicians or legislators, just like saying the words facial recognition, because people just are not thinking about it. Like this room, yeah, we're like all there, but outside of this room, they're like, oh, Snapchat, oh, Instagram, no, not exactly that, but on a deeper level. So just talking to people about it and informing people that this is happening right now.
Yeah. And just understanding that just because there are bills out there, this isn't the end of that sort of endeavor, because a lot of these bills have to deal with different jurisdictions of where they touch, who they cover, who they protect, and what we understand is that there are many holes even within the bills that are currently out there. So the fight that we have to make is to continue to have more bills cover more ground, essentially, because there are many tenants that'll be caught in the loopholes that landlords can take advantage of, unfortunately. So we would really like it if you would be mindful of that.
And I would also add that the reports and the studies that came out of the tech experts and the AI experts that we spoke with were extremely helpful.
Yes, Joy Bolomwini, I hope I got that extremely right, because you have been like very helpful to me in my search in all of this tech stuff that I was not into before, having it almost in my apartment complex. So I just, Ruha, like I thank everyone who is just doing the work and relaying that information to us. And what would be easier is if people could like directly send like information to people like Mona who are helping in the good fight, just so we have access to that information, because just finding the information is kind of hard on where we are. So because we don't always know what to Google or what terms to use or what to look for. So just getting us normal, non-techie people information would be awesome.
In simplified language.
Yes, in the most simple way possible.
All right, well, y'all have your homework.